See some little way in the distance a very tall tower block, black with chrome facings. There it is, way over to the left. That is the tallest building in the country. That's about 620 feet high, headquarters of the National Westminster Bank. And look through the opening, brickwork, medieval. And beneath the window on the left here, there's an inscription recording that it was here that the very first bomb fell on the city of London during the last World War on the 25th of August 1940. Considerably to the beauty and interest of the area, spires that he designed. He rebuilt 51 churches in this area, and each had a different tower or spire, no two alike. But this was the grandest of all, the Tower of Bow Church, providing the traditional definition of a London cockney, said to be one born within the sound of bow bells. At the end of the next street to the left, you catch a glimpse of Guildhall, meeting place for the City Corporation, the governing authority of the City of London. Guildhall dating back to the 13th century, although very substantially rebuilt after wartime damage. The intersection ahead of us now they call the Bank. This is the main hub and centre of the city's financial affairs. It's called the Bank because it's overlooked by the Bank of England. It's also overlooked by Mansion House, directly ahead of us now on the right-hand side with the great portico. That is Mansion House, built in the 18th century as the official residence of the Lord Mayor of the City of London. Mantled, presenting the recovery of a female figure representing the devastated City of London, watched on the right-hand side of the base by King Charles II, dressed as a Roman emperor, but still wearing his 17th century full-bottomed wig. Humongous Hall. It's one of several livery halls belonging to some of the 92 livery companies of the City of London. These are associations of city businessmen maintaining some of the traditions of medieval craft guilds. And now we're on London Bridge. All the commuters coming across from London Bridge Station to start their day's work. London Bridge completed in its present form in 1973. To the left, Tower Bridge, which is the last to cross the river before it reaches the open sea. The two central spans between those two towers can be raised like two drawbridges to admit large vessels to the Pool of London, the name given to this reach of the river. The warship moored down there is HMS Belfast, a battle cruiser commissioned just before the outbreak of the last World War, in which you saw a lot of active service, and in the Korean War also. To right towards the old dockland reaches of the river, there used to be 5 comprehensive separate systems of enclosed dock basins, all now being redeveloped, and immediately to the right of the bridge, the already fully redeveloped area of St. Catherine's Dock, redeveloped as something of an amenity area. The big hotel, as you see, there's a yacht marina there, there's a collection of old ships floating in one of the old dock basins, and to the left of the bridge, the Tower of London. We call it the Tower, although it is in fact a castle, but we call it the Tower because that's what it was originally, just the one tower, standing by itself beside the river, built by the Normans soon after the Norman conquest of England in 1066. And it's still there. It now forms the central citadel, the tower with the 4 corner turrets immediately to our left and the flagpost. That is the original Tower of London, built in about 1070, with 2 successive lines of defence constructed around it in subsequent centuries. Former is Trinity House, from which our lighthouses and lightships are administered, a memorial directly to our right, immediately to the right, that it commemorates men of the Merchant Navy killed in the First World War of bloody repair. And the work of restoration was entrusted to quite a young and quite inexperienced architect called Christopher Wren, who was at that time principally distinguished as Professor of Astronomy in the University of Oxford. But before he could begin restoring the old cathedral, it was entirely destroyed in the Great Fire. So Wren, though inexperienced, having been engaged to restore a church that was no longer standing, was instead given the task of building a new one. Whereas most great churches of the past, like Westminster Abbey, which we're going to see in a few minutes, are the work of many generations, sometimes several centuries. St. Paul's Cathedral was the work of one man, completed in 32 years. Struck by high-explosive bombs, one destroyed the high altar, and the near end of the building, as we approach it from the east end of the building was destroyed, and has been rebuilt as the American Memorial Chapel, commemorating the 28,000 American servicemen and women they devastated on that same night, the 30th of December 1940. The cathedral survived that night, despite destruction of its surroundings, thanks entirely to the fire watchers, volunteers up on the roof of the cathedral all through the raids, putting out fires as they began. That night they put out 11 separate fires, and they saved the cathedral, although of course they could not protect it from the high explosive bombs that were to fall upon it later. Despite the left of it, the wedding cake spire of St. Bride's Church, and some little way to the left of that, the 3 tower blocks, which we saw at the start of the tour, the 3 tower blocks providing residential accommodation within the district known as the Barbican. Looking to the right, the tower used to form County Hall. They used to contain the administrative headquarters of the Greater London Council, which was the overriding authority for the administration of London, coordinating the administrative role of the 32 separate boroughs into which London is administratively divided. However, the government decided that since we have 32 separate borough administrations, the role of the Greater London Council was unnecessary. So, on the 1st of April 1986, the Greater London Council was abolished. Part of the building is still occupied by a residuary board winding up its affairs, but the whole of the building is now on our right. The former County Hall are up for sale. 1850s, designed to contain both Houses of Parliament. May we make a stop? The House of Commons at the nearer end of the buildings, and the upper chamber, the House of Lords at the further end. The Houses of Parliament, still officially the Palace of Westminster, immediately to the left of the bridge. The clock tower, forming part of the palace, is of course the one popularly called Big Ben, although really it's the bell within the tower tolling the hours that was called Big Ben, but most people think of the tower as Big Ben. We'll stop here if you like until 9:45 so that you can hear Big Ben strike the 3rd quarter. You have to listen for it. If there's much traffic going past at the time, you miss it. But if you watch the clock and listen, you'll hear it strike. And then as soon as it has struck, please get back in the coach and we shall continue to Westminster Abbey.
Next week, start.
I like the way this thing shakes. I hope the heck we're not going to lie down in the creek and finish this off.
There we are. Now hear it and you won't get no, hear the Big Ben and I won't get what it's saying.
The set was built originally by the Normans in the late 11th century. It was rebuilt at the end of the 14th century. King still 165. She's a Bentley. The building across the river to the right as we turn behind the blue and white vessel, that is Lambeth Palace. That is the official residence of the Archbishop of Canterbury, Primate of the Church of England. In the riverside garden here, you'll see as we turn a group of sculpture by the French artist Rodin, representing the burghers of Calais, 6 leading citizens of the French town who surrendered themselves to the wrath of the English king, Edward III, after he had captured the town and was threatening its destruction. There are the burghers of Calais over to the right, and more immediately to the right, just a little further on, there's a statue of Mrs. Pankhurst, the leader of the suffragette movement, launched at the beginning of this century to secure voting rights for women. Mrs. Pankhurst, now on the right. It's the Queen of Canada, so how can you expect to have diplomatic representation? You can't have an ambassador in London because it's the capital of the sovereign, who is the sovereign of Canada. And it was to get round that little difficulty that the Prime Minister of Canada suggested that his representative be called not an ambassador, but a high commissioner. This is the Ritz Hotel, yes, on the left. This is one of our leading luxury hotels, opened in 1909, built in a vaguely French style of architecture. The streets on the right lead into the district of Mayfair, which is still partially residential, very exclusive residential neighbourhood, called Mayfair because they used to hold a fair there during the month of May. On the left, Greeton Park leads towards Buckingham Palace. The tower that you see in the distance beyond the trees, not the tower block, but the ornate brickwork tower with a little dome on top, that is the tower of Westminster Cathedral, which is the seat of the Roman Catholic Church in this country. Greeton Park is another of the royal parks, providing a great deal of open space close to the centre of town. Section. On the right, Hyde Park, which is continued further on by Kensington Gardens. Which way are you going? Cromwell Road or Kensington? Cromwell Road. The streets on the left lead through to Belgravia. That's another very exclusive address. Hyde Park is continued further on by Kensington Gardens. It's all one park, but known by the two different names because it used to fall into separate estates. Kensington Gardens cover 275 acres, Hyde Park a further 360 acres. So together they form the largest of the royal parks of central London. Some little way further on the left-hand side with the yellow flags is Harrods department store, generally regarded as our handsomest and most elegant department store.
Subscribe, hit that button down there, and if you hit subscribe and like the video, then maybe I'll stop singing. We'll never know unless you hit subscribe, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button and maybe I'll stop singing. Let's find out if that works.